Hey, it's Amanda again. Welcome back for another video. So last time we talked about how to do the double crochet stitch, which is really awesome that you know how to do this stitch, but right now the only thing you're able to do is make one really long row. So obviously you're probably wondering, how do I go up multiple rows like we do with the single crochet stitch? And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So with the double crochet, there's two main different ways that you can go up multiple rows, and the big difference between them is how the edges look, whether the edges are square or whether they're kind of bumpy and wavy, and that also changes how you count the stitches. So let's look at what the two different types look like. So here you can see I have two different squares of fabric that I have done with double crochet. Now these are both the exact same except for how the edges are. They both are 5 rows of double crochet stitches, and I've counted 10 stitches across in each row. But you can see that they look very different. This one here has kind of a cleaner edge, right angles, a more crisp, plainer look. Whereas this one over here, you can kind of see it's got this little bump going along the edges. It's a little funkier. And the big difference is all about how you count the stitches, because in this one, we count the turning chain as a stitch, whereas in this one, we let the turning chain make this bump on the side. So let's look at how you actually do each of these methods. So now that you know the basics of how to do the stitch itself and how to work across your first row, let's talk about building up for the rows, and I'll explain about what I was meaning by the curved shape from the turning chain. So regardless of which method you do, you always start by doing 3 chains for your turning chain. So now that we've finished coming across and we've got a double crochet right here, we're going to do chain 1, chain 2, chain 3. And once you're here, turn the work. So what I'm going to show you is method 1. Method 1 is where you work only in the double crochet, and so you would count this as 10 double crochet stitches, and then on each row you'll have this extra turning chain, but your first row it'll be on the left side, on your second row it'll be on the right side, on your third row on the left side, and with each row it'll kind of bounce back and forth, and it'll provide a nice little kind of bumpy textured pattern. So if we're going to work in the double crochet, we need to look at where we need to insert the hook. If you look at the top, you can see the V pattern, and that is the top of any kind of stitch you do. That's what's really nice about crochet, whether you do a chain, whether you do a single crochet, or whether you do a double crochet, you're going to end up with this nice pattern on the top. So it makes it really easy to find where you need to go. So if you look here, we want to make sure we come all the way in this guy here. You might think we want to go in there, and if you look at it from the side, it almost looks like that guy's the first one to go into. But you can see the hook, the post of the double crochet right there, and you can see there's another post right here. So this guy, this V from the top, is above this double crochet, which is our second one. So we want to make sure we come into this guy. So if you look from this side, you can just kind of move your hook up until you get right here, and you would insert it there. Or if you want to look from the top down view, you can kind of trace the post up, turn, and see, oh, right here where your hook is, there's the nice V stitch, and that is the top of our very first double crochet. So that's where we're going to insert the hook. But remember, to do the double crochet stitch, we have to yarn over before we insert the hook. So we're going to yarn over, insert the hook in the top of the first double crochet from the previous row, and just complete a double crochet stitch. And so you can kind of see that these double crochet will be on top of each other, and you will have this nice little bump, this little textured pattern from the chain on the right side. And so I'll go ahead and show you guys how to do the double crochet again, just to review. So yarn over. Now we're going to insert the hook. The next spot you can look from the top again and see, okay, that's your rightmost V shape. Or you can trace from the side and kind of go, okay, right here's where I want to go. And once you get going and once you become familiar with these stitches, you'll just be able to see it and you'll recognize it. I'm just trying to show you how to find it when you're starting. So we're going to insert our hook right here, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So let me finish working this row. So let's pause here for a moment. We're getting to the end, and this is our 10th double crochet, and this is our chain. So we're trying to figure out, when have I worked in all the stitches? Have I done it now? Do I need to do one more? Do I need to do 2 more? So we're going to come back to the right side, and we're going to count. So it's pretty easy to tell what the turning chain is, because the turning chain looks a little different from all these other stitches working across. So this is our turning chain, so we're not going to count this with this first method. So don't count this, and we want to make sure we have 10 double crochet. So this guy is going to be our first one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But we want 10, so that tells us we need to do 1 more. So let's do 1 last double crochet. My yarn's escaping. And now we have 10, and so that would be our signal that it's time to work up the next row. So I'll briefly show you that. So just as normal, you do 1, 2, 3 chains for your turning chain, turn the work, yarn over, insert the hook right in this first guy here, right above the first post, and complete the double crochet. And you can kind of see the start, how on your edges you're going to have this little nice bumpy pattern with this method. So I'll finish working this row across so you can see how it will look. Now once again, let's take a look at knowing when to end. Now remember, this is method 1 that I'm showing you, where the turning chain does not count as a stitch and creates a nice little bump on the side. So we want to go ahead and count to make sure that we've got it, or else to go, oh, we didn't make it all the way across. And that's why it's so important when you first start to count, because you might be looking right now and going, okay, that's just a little bump there, those are kind of even, I'm good. But if we count, here's the turning chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we are missing one of our double crochet. So we want to do our 10th guy right here, and there you go. You can kind of see how the pattern builds with method 1, how you have even rows in the middle with these little bumps on the edge here. So here we are back at our beginning, and by the way I got back to the beginning, if you take the hook out and you just pull, it will unravel the stitch. And if you're messed up and you need to unravel to a certain point, just pull until you end up with 1 loop on the hook, on your work. Insert the hook, and that means you're at the end of a stitch. So let's put this guy back that I just unraveled. So for method 2, the turning chain counts as a stitch. So when you count your double crochet, even though the turning chain isn't technically a double crochet stitch, you count it as if it is one. So let's look at what we have here. We've got the turning chain, so this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this would count as 11 stitches in method 2. So we're going to start just like we always do with our turning chain, which for a double crochet you do 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn the work. And this time, instead of working directly above the previous row's double crochet stitch, we're going to skip the first one, because the way it'll work is this turning chain that we've made, see how it's positioned directly above the previous row's double crochet here? That's going to count like the double crochet in the first one. So that's why we skip it. And so instead of inserting our hook here, we will insert the hook here. So let's yarn over, insert the hook above the second double crochet, and finish our double crochet stitch for this row. So if you look at it, you can kind of see these columns being formed with the post, where the turning chain is positioned right above the first double crochet, and then working across, our double crochet are each positioned directly above the previous row's double crochet. Whereas in method 1, if we worked this guy right here, this guy would be above double crochet 1, and so the turning chain would just kind of bump out on the side to create a different pattern. So then as normal, we're going to work our stitches across. So here we are, and we're nearing the end of our second row. And this is another way that this method, method 2, differs from method 1. We want, when we count our stitches to see how far we've come, we're going to count this turning chain as our first double crochet. Even though it's not technically a double crochet stitch, it acts like one. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And in this row when we counted, we had 11 stitches. So since we've only got 9 here, we need to do 2 more. So our first one is going to go right here, and that's pretty easy. But when you get to the 11th, the last one, you don't have a nice spot on the top to work it. You've got this guy, but if you insert the hook right here, you're kind of going in this space. And so instead of forming a nice edge, it'd be kind of squished in this way, and so you'd still have not a crisp edge like we have on this side. So when we insert the hook, we're going to insert it, this is the turning chain from the previous row, and we're going to insert our hook into this turning chain. So there's lots of different methods, and I've seen different ways online. I'm going to show you one that I think is pretty easy for learning, and I also like the look it gives because it keeps the edge nice and crisp. So we're going to yarn over to start our stitch, and when we insert, you can kind of see along the side this top loop right here. Let me pull the hook out so I can show you this. We've got a little bit of yarn coming here, and then we've got a loop going across. We want to come in right underneath that loop. Let me show you from this angle. You can see the turning chain. It's got our V, so 1, 2, 3. So if you think about them as turning chains, we're going to come in on this side of our third chain, which would be right here. And when we turn the work this way, we see it's the same spot I showed you from this side. So yarn over, insert the hook right here. You can kind of see, here's some other views so you can get an idea of what we're looking at. And then yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 to complete the stitch. And now you have 11 stitches in each row, and you can kind of see how it produces a more square edge. I'll work one more row so you can see how it'll look. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn the work. Now we're going to, remember, for method 2, we skip the first double crochet and come in the second. So yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then just work across. So here we are. I've already counted my stitches. I've been keeping track in my head, and I've got 10 stitches coming across. So to do the 11th, I'm going to yarn over, and there's not a perfect way to do this, and there's really not quite so much a right or wrong way. So if you're still not sure where you need to insert the hook, if you look, just kind of try to find a loop that's on the top right. And you don't want to go in here. You don't want to go between the chain and this preceding double crochet. You want to go actually in these loops of the chain. So just find a good spot. I'm going to go in right here. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And here we have 3 rows worked with a nice square edge. And this is method 2 for doing double crochet stitches and building up in rows. So hey guys, it's actually not that cold outside. It's like 80 degrees outside, but the AC is a little cold in here. But this is probably still overkill, but I've just got to, live up to the crochet lady persona. See here my blanket. So anyways, today we talked about how to do the double crochet, and hopefully you will be able to keep practicing these and be able to get the hang of it and keep practicing. Please don't give up. And I'm going to do a blog post on how to read a crochet pattern, and so we'll talk about a pattern for just like a little hot pad, just make a little square. And in my next video, I'll talk about how to finish it. So with what you've learned so far, you know the chain, you know the single crochet, and you know the double crochet. And with those 3, you can make so much stuff right now. And if you just use the methods that I show you of how you build on row after row, if you keep using those methods, you can make pretty much, there's lots of stuff you can make. You know, like a scarf or a hot pad. We're going to start with something simple. Also, what's cool, I'll go ahead and share this idea with you. You don't, just because you do one row, one kind of stitch, your second row can be the other kind of stitch. So you could do a double crochet, and then a row of single crochet, and then a row of double crochet, and you can mix it up and it'll make different textures and patterns and all kinds of cool things. But in my next blog post, I'm going to talk about how to read a pattern for making a little hot pad, you know, to put under your pots and pans. And I'll do my next video on how to finish the work, because hopefully you've been practicing and maybe you have something that you've almost got finished by now and you're kind of wondering, okay, I'm almost to the end, how do I end this? So I'm going to talk about that in my next video. So until then, keep practicing and have fun. And don't forget to subscribe, comment below with what you thought. Bye guys!